In this video, I'm putting a 1968 Sunbeam Alpine through its paces. The Bond car you didn't know was a Bond car. So yes, in Dr. No, a Sean Connery James Bond film, he drives a Sunbeam Alpine. So let's talk about a bit about what a Sunbeam Alpine is. Sunbeam, part of the Roots group, a very confusing history, the history of Sunbeam. Built land speed record cars, ended up becoming part of the Roots group, and the Roots group included Hillman, Humber, Sunbeam, Singer, and latterly Talbot, because of Sunbeam Talbot. It gets very confusing very quickly. You can go and look at it, but there was a British offshoot of the French Talbot company, and it became Talbot. So there was actually a Sunbeam Talbot Alpine. It was actually badged as a Sunbeam for the most part. Well, actually no, I think last year of production it was a Sunbeam Alpine. And then it was kind of colloquially known as a Talbot Alpine way before there was such a thing that used to be a Chrysler hatchback. Like I say, it's a confusing world, but this generation of Sunbeam Alpine came out in 1959, and it was quite an advanced little sports car for its day. It had disc front brakes, independent front suspension, the good old leaf springs at the back. But even in 1959, the Alpine boasted such luxuries as winding windows. Oh, these ones don't come out very often. Ta-da! Believe it or not, that was luxury in 1959. Luxury that at the time, MG, perhaps the most noted producer of sports cars in the UK, the other being Triumph, they could only dream of such things. So yeah, a very advanced car, hiding humble underpinnings, just like MG. MG would use the best bits of Austin and Morris cars to make sports cars. This actually uses the floor pan of the Hillman Husky van, which is the van version of the Hillman Minx. The van, for some reason, used a slightly shorter wheelbase, so that suited a sports car down to a T. The styling of the original Alpine was done by Raymond Loewy. His studio's over in America. Very famous designer, and I think it is a very pretty shape. No doubting. These later ones, slightly chunkier indicators, lose a little of the grace perhaps, and much truncated rear fins. The ones on the early cars swooped up and then swept back, very dramatic. But it's a very practical car as well. There's a good sized boot under here where I'm currently hiding my bag. I've got a jack, spare wheel, wheel brace, and some tools. There we go, make sure that's latched. And we should probably have a peek under the bonnet. That's quite easily done. You reach in here, you pull the bonnet pull, and then the bonnet tips forward. And here is the 1725cc engine. That was the largest version of this engine. A very simple overhead valve engine, quite a hardy little engine. Same engine fitted to the Singer Vogue I drove earlier this year. Love the screen wash bladder over there, a fixed fan. This one seems to have a servo, a remote servo for the brakes, and nice copper lines there have likely been remade. Twin carburetors, Strombergs here. I forget what the output is, but I shall put the power output about here somewhere, so you can see what it is. Yeah, not a particularly astonishing engine, but believe me, it sounds nice, as we will soon discover. Close that down. Moving inside, good old vinyl seats. There are actually two trim levels on these. There's the Sport, which has a vinyl dashboard and a soft top that can be raised. Very nice tonneau to protect it here. That's quite a nice detail with all these zips. Zips slightly broken with age, but keeps it all wrapped and hidden, and a very low profile on it. And you could get a GT. The GT had a hard top but no soft top. So you took the roof off and you hoped it would stay dry. And I think that had little metal panels around here rather than a soft tonneau like this. And I think a bit more storage, if I remember right. It's a long time since I drove one. It was a long time ago. We opened the door. It's a monocoque structure, so it's lost some strength by having the top chopped off, but nonetheless the doors still seem to open very nicely. It's very simple, but I think very elegant. We've got this lovely steering wheel, the horn boss. Let's turn the ignition on, see if that works. Oh yes, that is a good horn. And one lovely detail which I didn't even know existed until the owner told me, if you screw that maybe a bit more, look, you can adjust telescopic adjustment of the steering wheel. For me, I always tend to find the pedals too far away, so I always have to push the seat back and then find the steering wheel too far away. So that's great that I can adjust it like that. And 4-speed gearbox, dinky little lever down here that's not quite attached, but who cares. Overdrive switch here, so that's overdrive on, that's overdrive off. We've got overdrive on 3rd and 4th gear, so effectively 6-speed gearbox. So that's quite funky. Indicators right, wiper switch here, twin switch for the blower, 2 speeds, luxurious. That screen wash is no longer attached and it's been replaced by an electric pump I operate here. We will do a wiper test, but the owner tells me these blades, really interesting blades, have got 2 wiper blades on each one. Quite interesting. They're very old and don't work very well. He generally doesn't drive this car in the rain. I'm hoping I don't drive this car in the rain because he hasn't shown me how to put the hood up. Choke here, lights here, cigarette lighter. We've got vents under here, so you can actually get more ventilation through if you've got the roof on perhaps, because the quarter lights don't open. They're just there for artistic effect, I think, or maybe to help with the window raising and lowering. And in terms of gauges, fairly comprehensive. We've got an ammeter, a rev counter, which seems to suggest the engine's idling at 3000 revs. It isn't. Oil pressure, speedometer, a coolant temperature, a clock, which is apparently quite rare on these models, and the fuel gauge, and a panel switch so you can turn the panel on and off. We've also got a heater. You know, all the luxuries here, folks. It's incredible stuff. I'm going to quickly fire the engine up. It's just a normal key starter. It's a mechanical. It's a mechanical throttle linkage. In fact, if we just have a look under the bonnet again, I just want to see what that linkage looks like, because the carburetors are over on the passenger side. Linkage comes sprouting out of here. So, oh, there we go. So that crossbar linkage is under there. Oh, these little pancake filters. The induction roar. That's lovely. We'll just close that again. Just come round the back just for that exhaust note. That is cheeky. That is very cheeky, and I like it a lot. So into first gear, handbrake is to my right, just like in a Fiat Multipla. I always love making the comparisons no one else sees anywhere else. Let's give it a bit of that. Whoa, I'm soaked. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's not the best wiping performance ever, but no triangle of doom, good overlap. And the driver's wiper arc is larger than the passenger, just like cars tended to be back then. Morris Oxfords, and then latterly Mercedes-Benz with the W116 and 126 saloons. Yeah, initial impressions are this car just sounds hilarious. Here we go though. That is, oh, that exhaust note is everything. It doesn't care. But this is basically a sporty van. Yeah, sports cars are so often more than the sum of their parts, and MGs are no exception. The exhaust note they got out of MGBs still baffles me, but it sounds very much like that. It's got that sort of rasp to it. So I'm now in top overdrive, and this car, it's not immaculate by any stretch of the imagination, but the owner has had it for 30 years, yet he reckons he's only done 3,000 miles in that time. It's been used very sparingly, and as a result it has a feel of a very original car. It hasn't been restored, it hasn't been overly done. So we can find some slightly more open roads so we can explore the handling a bit. There is a bit of scuttle shake. It isn't the most robust structure, but actually it rides really well. It's actually surprisingly supple. So at launch it had a 1494cc engine, then the Series 2 took it up to 1592cc, and then the final evolution was this 1725. This engine would go on to be whole bay tuned to make the Rapier that sort of replace this car. That was a fixed head coupe, and there will be a test coming up hopefully of one of those. Made that quite a serious performance machine for its day. But the Alpines have long been overlooked. They can't match an MGB ultimately for sheer driving dynamics. I'm pretty sure they're still on a steering box, and I will say the steering does not have that sharp, accurate feel of an MGB with its rack and pinion steering. It doesn't really stop you enjoying yourself. It still goes where you point it. Oh, hello, XR4i. Changing gear with a flick of the finger. Marvellous. Yeah, this really puts a smile on your face. I don't know if it's a stainless steel exhaust, so it's a little rortier than standard. I don't remember the last one I drove being quite so mischievous. Yeah, this has got enough power. And that is the beauty of these cars. They don't need vast amounts of power to be a proper giggle. And because they haven't got vast amounts of power, you can have fun using that power on public roads, even quite skinny ones like this. I love the exhaust note. Brakes in this example are a little wooden. He's done so few miles, but he reckons the pads haven't actually bedded in yet. And brake servo also adds an element of mush. This is me doing what I really love doing most. It's shining a light on these cars that so often get overlooked, and all the Roots Group cars get overlooked. And that's probably because Roots sort of died out with Chrysler Europe in the 1970s. And ultimately what was left of Chrysler Europe became Peugeot. Now we can't really talk about the Alpine without talking about the Tiger. That's where they took a Ford V8 engine from America and shoved it into an Alpine to create the Sunbeam Tiger. 4.2 litres initially I think, and then 4.7. Considerable grunt, and those cars are worth a very serious amount of money today. That's always left the Alpines a bit overshadowed because they're a mass market car. They haven't had the cachet of the AC Ace, the Ace giving rise to the Cobra. Plus I think some people get a bit sniffy about sports cars that have only got 4-cylinder engines, but this one sounds truly magnificent. Top speed around 100 miles an hour, and oddly that didn't change much throughout production. All the Alpines are knocking on the door of the ton. This is quite a nervous drive in some ways because the owner has never let anyone else drive this car at all, so I've been entrusted with it and I'm driving it down these tiny lanes. This one's particularly bumpy, so yeah, I'm having to be careful with it, but yeah, it's lovely. To quickly describe how the Overdrive works, it's a solenoid that gives you a different gear ratio. So it's just effectively you hear a solenoid go click and you're into the next gear. That click is slightly overwhelmed by the exhaust note, I think. If I change down to second, overdrive is cancelled out and it'll go back to standard. And then when I next go to third, it'll be non-overdrive third. That's our 60 up. And with the overdrive engaged, cruising along becomes actually quite pleasant. Try and raise my window slightly to reduce the buffeting. Oh, that works. Not at all, really. I'm still getting buffeted. I hope the sound is okay. I've got another microphone. Got two microphones on this test to try and better capture the noise of the engine. But yeah, I mean, this is a pleasant cruiser actually. It's a really nice driving position. Sure, you've got the intrusion of the gearbox, because that is the gearbox. That lever is going straight down into it. But yeah, you can sit here very comfortably for quite a long time, I think. Like I say, the beauty of these cars is there's nothing exotic about them because it's all humble running gear. So easy to look after, and parts are pretty plentiful. These engines were used in so many different cars. Oh, I love an overdrive, me. This is a great car. I like it very much. Is it an out-and-out sports car that you can thrash around a track? No. Can you have plenty of fun in it on a public road? Yes. So that has been the Sunbeam Alpine. As ever, I'm very pleased to shine a light on a car that does not get enough recognition. Is it a pinnacle of sports car excellence? No. Is it absolutely lovely to drive? Yes. I had a lovely time with it. For driving around country lanes like this, it's absolutely ideal. But equally at home, just going on a longer run as well, that overdrive means you can just cruise along. So yeah, magnificent cars, well worth people's attention. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget you can head to the Hubnut store and buy lovely merchandise, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Farewell. Here's a little nugget I didn't know about when I was doing the Singer Vogue test. You can actually rotate that. If that's too bright, you can do that, and it's a dimmer one, so you'd be able to view that at night. But otherwise, there you are. I've never seen that on any other car other than these Roots Group cars. Just flick it back down. Oh, that's interesting. The door handle has just fallen off. Amazing.